Hi, it's Katrina. Dive into the depths with me because we're about to explore the most baffling underwater discoveries that defy explanation. Forget what you think you know about the ocean. We are going beyond shipwrecks and coral reefs to uncover mysteries that have stumped scientists and captivated imaginations. And we're starting with a find that has some people whispering about a lost world: the Costa Rican Atlantis. A structure the size of an airport has been found 6,000 feet beneath the surface of the Pacific Ocean, and no one can figure out what it is. Alien submarine station? Lost castle from the city of Atlantis? Listen to this and then let me know what you think. Google Earth strikes again. In 2018, amateur undersea archaeologist Mac McIver was scrolling Google Earth, but instead of zooming in on Area 51 or their ex's new house, he zoomed in on Cocos Island. Cocos Island is a very famous place for divers. It's located about 300 miles off the coast of Costa Rica and is surrounded by sharks. Mac had gone on a 10-day diving excursion to the island and is also a certified submersible pilot, so he's no armchair explorer. He was checking out the island again on Google, and what did he spot at 6,000 feet below the surface? A structure measuring 80 miles across. That's like an underwater town. The structure is huge. Scientists would typically dismiss this sort of thing as pseudoscience. They'd say it's nothing but a natural formation. Get out of here. Usually they'd be right. But wait a second. This structure is a mess of straight lines, parallel runways, and 45-degree angles. It looks like an airport if airports were designed by Poseidon and forgotten by time. Seriously though, what is this thing? It could be a billion-dollar question if someone can answer it. Guesses include a sonar anomaly, the remains of an ancient civilization's underwater city, or an alien landing strip that was built millions of years ago. Experts claim it might be sonar stitching. This means the structure might not even exist. When multiple seafloor scans are pieced together in a program like Google Earth, they can create weird lines and patterns. But even the skeptics don't think it's sonar stitching. The lines and runways look way too organized to be a random glitch. Mac McIver has a theory. Maybe, once upon a prehistoric time, this part of the ocean wasn't ocean at all. Maybe it was land. And maybe, just maybe, our ancestors built this entire place that got swallowed by the sea. For now, there is no official explanation and there are no plans for funding an expedition. This could be a huge discovery, but no one is ponying up the money to send an underwater drone to investigate. What are your thoughts? Lost civilization? Ancient runway? Nothing at all? The family cruise from hell. A cruise with your family in the summertime sounds fun, right? What could possibly go wrong? This family cruise ended with a steel steamer swallowed whole by Lake Superior, a watery grave that kept its secret for over 100 years. The recently discovered wreckage isn't just old, it's a chilling monument to what might be the worst family trip in history. The Great Lakes Shipwreck Historical Society struck underwater gold when they found the wreck of the Western Reserve, a 318-foot steel steamer. It went down in 1892 and has been missing ever since, for a solid 132 years. The ship's captain was Peter G. Minch, a millionaire shipping tycoon back when millionaire was a truly shocking word. On August 30th, 1892, Captain Minch decided to take his family on a late summer cruise through the Great Lakes. Sounds great, right? On paper, it was the perfect getaway, a relaxing journey through Lake Huron en route to Minnesota. But Mother Nature didn't get the memo. A storm kicked up while they were 60 miles northwest of Whitefish Point, Lake Superior's unofficial Bermuda Triangle. It's a place where mysterious things are known to happen. The crew dropped anchor and hoped the skies would chill out. By 9 p.m., the winds were howling and the ship was no match for the building gale. The mighty Western Reserve broke up and sank like a rock in a washing machine. There were 28 people on board, including Captain Minch's wife, 2 kids, a sister-in-law, and her daughter. 2 lifeboats were deployed, but one immediately flipped, sending passengers into the water. The other was okay for a little while. Survivors clung to hope and each other as they drifted in wind, cold, and full pitch-black terror for 10 hours. At one point, a steamship passed by. The group screamed their lungs out for a whole 30 minutes, but the ship didn't hear them. The next morning, just when land was in sight and hope was rising, the water got rough and their lifeboat flipped in the surf. It was like starving to death, just as you get within sight of the grocery store. Only one person survived, wheelsman Harry W. Stewart. Among the dead was Captain Minch, his family, and the rest of the crew. It was a terrible tragedy. It was also forgotten about for years. Then, in the summer of 2024, David Boyd found the wreck using his sonar rig aboard the Historical Society's vessel. After deploying remotely operated vehicles, they confirmed the shipwreck's position 600 feet down, resting like an underwater Jenga tower with the bow somehow sitting on top of the stern. Even if you don't know boats, you know the bow shouldn't be on the stern. The Western Reserve isn't the only boat on the bottom of Whitefish Bay. Roughly 200 ships have gone down there, including the infamous SS Edmund Fitzgerald in 1975. If you are going sailing anywhere in the general vicinity, I highly suggest you pack an extra life jacket. And now for a quick break because it's shout-out time! I want to give a big thank you to Talking with Tiff and Genevieve Anderson for supporting this channel. Thanks so much for watching and spending time with me. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already for more videos like this. Mystery sound of the deep. Are fish trying to talk to us? Are the critters of the sea speaking in a language that's silent to the human ear? Or is there something huge, terrifying, and a little grumbly lurking off the coast of India? Let's take a trip to Goa, where you can hang out with Russian tourists, sip a coconut, and get a tan. Goa is like the Cancun of India for Europeans, but when scientists went there recently, they weren't on vacation. They went out into a coral reef and dropped a giant underwater microphone known as a hydrophone, 65 feet down. Why? To listen to the fish gossip. And what did the scientists hear? Besides your standard underwater ASMR, they picked up snappy shrimp chatter, boat rumbles, and fish humming and clicking. And beyond that, something weird. The hydrophone picked up a strange, unexplained buzz. It was a mysterious ocean sound that made every marine biologist go, wait, what the heck was that? The research team was from India's National Institute of Oceanography, led by marine scientist Bishwajit Chakraborty. They initially set out to record natural underwater soundscapes without using typical sonar. Sonar is shockingly bad for marine life since it makes a loud noise that disturbs the animals. They used the hydrophone to spy on the fishes stealthily. What they hadn't anticipated was a mystery buzz. Weirdly, the same sort of sound was picked up before off the coast of North Carolina, of all places. Is it caused by an animal? What is making this crazy buzz noise? Chakraborty thinks it's a fish, the kind that makes noise, which narrows it down to, I don't know, maybe 100 options, maybe more. The problem is there is no underwater Shazam app. There's no Merlin Bird ID app yet for fish. Some fish do make noise, but no one knows which fish is making this freaky buzz noise. In fact, the mystery is part of the reason scientists have begun to build the Global Library of Underwater Biological Sounds. It's like Spotify for sea creatures, but with fewer breakup songs and no ads. At least, not yet. Scientists want to catalog every snap, grunt, buzz, and beep before climate change turns coral reefs into underwater ghost towns. Why does this matter? Because marine life depends on temperature and environment to function. Most sea creatures are ectothermic, which means their body temp depends on their surroundings. If the ocean gets warmer, noisier, or more polluted, their behavior changes. By listening now, scientists can track those changes over time. But there's still no telling what is making this buzz noise from India to North Carolina. Could it be a monster with a Bluetooth speaker? Rogue AI shrimp DJ? Mermaid rave? Drop your wildest theories in the comments. The crazier, the better. Maya treasure and the haunted cave. One moment you're floating in a serene Mexican cenote, and the next you are staring into the inky blackness of a 215-mile-long underwater abyss. This isn't just a cave. It's a submerged highway to the past, where Maya gods once held court, and the remains of prehistoric beasts lie waiting to be discovered. If you dare to descend. In Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula, there is a peaceful jungle cenote, but below its calm surface is a doorway to a world of nightmares, extinct monsters, and ancient artifacts. I'm talking about the largest underwater cave in the world. It is 215 miles of flooded caverns stuffed with more treasure than you can fit in your Stanley lunchbox, but good luck getting to it. This underwater tunnel system was found by workers with the Great Maya Aquifer project. The team discovered a link between two already known giant underwater cave systems, Sac Actun and Dos Ojos. When the two watery beasts were combined, they formed an underwater spaghetti mess so massive it could wrap around Manhattan. Each of them was already huge, but together they are quite literally the biggest submerged cave on the planet. Dr. Guillermo de Anda, who leads the project, said this cave is the most important archaeological site in the world. Those were his exact words. Why is it so important? Because this cave system is actually home to more than 100 archaeological sites. It contains evidence of extinct animals and Maya relics that haven't seen the sunlight since, I don't know when. Exploring the place is a nightmare. You have to navigate a flooded, pitch-black maze of winding tunnels, multiple levels, sudden drop-offs, and enough dead ends to make the Minotaur dizzy. Divers had to map every inch of the combined cave network by hand, which took decades of work. And it was still only recently that they realized Sac Actun and Dos Ojos are connected. Let's talk about the Mayans. When the Maya Empire was at its height, these caves were mostly dry. It's hard to imagine now, considering they're now full of water, but it's true. They were spiritual bat caves to the Maya, where priests went to chat with the gods, specifically Chak, the god of rain, lightning, and good harvest. The Maya thought these creepy tunnels led to their version of the underworld, known as Xibalba. The caves were used as ritual sites for festivals and sacrifice. This was common all over the Maya kingdom. They loved their caves and sinkholes. Take the Midnight Terror Cave in Belize, for example. Researchers found 10,000 bones of children under 14, all sacrificed to Chak. The Maya really wanted it to rain, and they thought sacrifice was the only way to bring it. Then, at some point, the water level rose. The tunnels were flooded, and now it takes a brave archaeologist with an oxygen tank to explore them. This is obviously quite difficult, so discoveries are few and far between. There's all kinds of stuff in the caves, but it's still at the bottom of the underwater layers of silt. Have you ever tried to find a needle under 20 feet of water at the beach? That's what looking for relics is like in the Grand Maya cave system. It's nearly impossible. Would you dare go diving down here? No pressure. Just make sure your insurance is up to date because this is one cave system you might not come back from. The Titanic as you've never seen it before. If you haven't seen news about the Titanic in a while, you're missing out. The Titanic just got a digital resurrection so detailed, it's like Google Street View for shipwrecks. You can now take a tour of the Titanic as if you were at the bottom of the ocean yourself, all from the comfort of your own home. No scuba gear, no submarines, no fear of getting crushed by the darkness. It's all thanks to a mind-blowing 700,000 photo digital scan done 12,500 feet under the sea. Titanic researchers have created a full-size 3D model of the wreck that lets them walk around it virtually. Even though the wreck was discovered in 1985, it's so big that cameras can only show us small sections of the ship, not the whole thing. Now, thanks to Magellan Limited, the deep-sea mapping company has made the full scan of the wreck. It wasn't easy either. The team spent over 200 hours mapping every square centimeter, even the boring parts, but it was worth it. Park Stevenson, a Titanic analyst, said, "I can stand in Boiler Room 2 right where the engineers stood as the hull tore apart around them and basically killed them all." Okay, that got a bit more violently graphic than I was expecting, but it's true. More than 1,500 people died when the ship hit an iceberg, including the engineers that stayed at the bottom of the ship trying to save it. These engineers were absolute legends. While everyone else was panicking, they were down there keeping the lights on, sending distress calls, and pulling off every move in the book before they were flooded by cold Atlantic water. Up until now, historians have been piecing together what happened to the Titanic based on rusty artifacts, blurry photos, and a few survivor stories. This is the first time they have had access to real hard evidence to confirm or debunk Titanic myths that have been around for a century. For example, do you remember First Officer William Murdoch? He was the poor guy who got portrayed in the '97 film as taking the so-called easy way out. But Park Stevenson says nope, that's not how it happened in real life. The new scan data shows that Murdoch was heroically loading a lifeboat when the sea said that's enough bravery for one day and killed him. How could some scans reveal the last moments of Titanic victims? Because the Digital Deep project scanned the whole dang ship. It uncovered personal artifacts in the debris field like time capsules from 1912. It found wreckage patterns that confirm eyewitness reports for the first time ever. The debris layout is now so detailed, you can almost hear the band playing as the ship creaks, breaks, and takes on water. With all this data, experts can recreate where certain people were during the ship's final moments. First Officer William Murdoch was a hero to the very end. Next time you watch the movie, know that he was better in real life. Stevenson says this is just the beginning. This digital twin will be the baseline for future Titanic research. Now's your chance to take a virtual stroll. Be sure to let me know how it goes. The Temple of Zeus. The Mediterranean holds countless secrets and thousands of shipwrecks, but one lucky scuba diver off the Sicilian coast got the surprise of a lifetime. He was hoping for a glimpse of some colorful fish, and instead stumbled upon a ghostly white form emerging from the blue depths. Not coral, not rock, but a massive piece of marble. A fragment of a legendary temple swallowed by the sea thousands of years ago. It turns out it was a chunk of the Temple of Zeus, where it's been hiding underwater waiting patiently for the past 2,000 years. The temple originally stood on dry land in the ancient city of Akragas. Akragas, known in modern times as Agrigento, sits on Sicily's southern coast. According to ancient myths, it was founded by Daedalus and Icarus, presumably in between building labyrinths and flying death traps or flying too close to the sun. That's what the myth claims, but historians have a different version. They say Akragas was founded by settlers from Rhodes and Crete around 580 BC. Not as romantic, but makes more sense. At its peak, Akragas was the place to be. It had a population of around 300,000 and a skyline packed with more temples than God of War 3. The crown jewel was the Temple of Olympian Zeus, and it was huge, bigger than huge. It was the biggest Doric temple ever attempted. How big was it, you ask? It was 367 feet long and 183 feet wide. It made the Parthenon in Athens look like a kid's set of building blocks. Archaeologists are wondering how the slab of marble ended up on the bottom of the sea. Maybe earthquakes, maybe pirates, or maybe Zeus got cranky. But what they do know is that the temple itself was never completed and eventually crumbled into ruins. According to ancient historian Diodorus Siculus, the temple was built with labor from Carthaginian slaves. The slaves were likely soldiers captured by the Greeks after the Battle of Himera in 480 BC. Keep in mind, this was ages before the Roman Republic started their beef with Carthage. The Temple of Olympian Zeus became a post-war boast. The Greeks built it not only to honor Zeus, but to bring glory to Greece. It was a way of showing Carthage how strong, rich, and advanced their society was. Nowadays, this is what the temple looks like. It's pretty much gone, so you have to have a really good imagination. There's nothing really left here to show that it was ever a giant temple. It's just a crumbling collection of broken stones. Even so, researchers are hoping that the discovery of the sunken marble underwater will lead to more ruins, more artifacts, and more information about this lost city. If you pulled a 6-foot-long marble slab out of the sea, what would you do with it? Put it in your garden, use it as a doorstop, call Nicolas Cage and see if he'll trade you for a dinosaur skull? Exploring the deep abyss. You're not going to believe what someone did at the Great Blue Hole in Belize. The Great Blue Hole is an enormous marine sinkhole famous for being the most terrifying abyss in the Caribbean Sea. And someone dropped a drone into it. What could possibly go wrong? I don't know. How about a sudden high-speed shark attack caught in glorious, panic-inducing 4K? That's what happened when content creator and deep-sea daredevil Will Mitchell sent a rigged-up GoPro contraption into the Great Blue Hole. The Great Blue Hole is 1,000 feet across and 400 feet deep. It's so massive that it's visible from space, like a giant pupil staring up from the sea, judging you. Discovered and made popular by ocean legend Jacques Cousteau, this place made his top 5 scuba diving list, which is the Michelin guide for underwater thrill seekers. But beneath the postcard perfect blue lies a terrifying truth. At around 300 feet down, the hole becomes death itself. Diving down, you hit a layer of hydrogen sulfide that kills anything insane enough to enter it. The blue hole is a paradise on the surface and a watery underworld of bleak doom at the bottom. Let's get back to our friend Will Mitchell. Being the brave yet stubborn human he is, he dropped his camera rig into the abyss, hoping to spot something cool and maybe a little mysterious. At first, the drone floated calmly down into the darkness. Some fish, some bubbles, the usual. Then, a shark showed up. Not casual either. It slammed into the camera at an estimated 40 miles per hour, turning the film into some found footage horror movie. Luckily, the drone lived to tell the tale. Apparently, sharks don't like the taste of aluminum. It kept descending into the depths, coming across a soggy plastic bag before dipping beneath the layer of hydrogen sulfide I told you about earlier. Inside the death zone was pure nightmare fuel. Above it, there was light, fish, movement, shark attacks. Once the camera plunged below the death line, everything was still. It was a lifeless underworld full of decaying remnants of creatures that made a wrong turn. While the drone didn't pick up anything groundbreaking to science, I think the journey was worth it. Between the shark attack and showing off the ultimate doom pool, Will Mitchell made the right decision sending his camera on a one-way trip. Can you think of a better way to spend $500? Giant volcano eggs. Pretend you're cruising the ocean floor in a high-tech robot sub. It's pitch black except for the eerie glow of molten rock bubbling out of a volcano. A volcano that hasn't seen sunlight since dinosaurs were arguing over who had the better roar. Then, out of the darkness, you spot them. Dozens of eggs all along the slopes of this undersea fire mountain. Not just any eggs either. These eggs are enormous. Huge. They're like ostrich eggs, each one a whopping 20 inches long. And there are more than just a dozen. There are almost 1 million of these extra-large eggs chilling near the submarine volcano like it's some kind of deep-sea daycare center. Scientists are freaked out. Can you blame them? No one has any idea what laid these eggs. Not one clue. Marine biologists like Dr. Elena Vasquez dug through every known species catalog and nothing matched. It's like walking into your kitchen and finding a dinosaur omelet. It's there, it's real, but how? Some scientists are whispering theories about giant fish, prehistoric reptiles, or even a completely new species, one that prefers lava jacuzzis over coral reefs. The biggest question aside from who is why? Why were the eggs laid next to an underwater volcano? Scientists suspect the volcanic heat and mineral-rich waters create a 5-star environment for weird and wonderful creatures who like it hot. Imagine a baby animal so hardcore, it's like, yeah, I'll hatch next to this boiling death pit, no big deal. Surely someone must know what laid these eggs. Couldn't scientists just wait until one hatches? Apparently, it's not that easy. Scientists are currently trying to crack open the genetic codes to figure out who these mystery parents are. So far, all signs point to something that evolved to survive in molten chaos. But what? The eggs are longer than any known marine egg on record. The problem with the wait and see what hatches approach is that scientists can't hook up a webcam on an undersea volcano. They have to go back on another mission with more underwater robots and better cameras. Next time, they're hoping to collect eggs without starting a sea monster custody battle. When scientists figure it out, I'll be sure to let you know the results, which is exactly why you should subscribe to Origins Explained if you haven't already. The Real Sharkcano. You've heard of Sharknado, but now brace yourself for Sharkcano. This is no joke. It's not a B-movie plot. This is real-life Earth at its craziest. It's Shark Week times a million. Literal sharks spewing out of a volcano. On May 14th, 2022, NASA's Landsat 9 snapped a satellite image of the Cavachi volcano in the Solomon Islands mid-eruption, spewing out a giant murky plume of discolored water into the Pacific like Poseidon had a rough burrito night. This wasn't your average underwater puff. This plume was massive. It was messy. It was pretty terrifying. It was Mother Nature's lava-scented bubble bath from hell. And it included sharks. Let me back up a second. 7 years earlier, in 2015, a group of scientists decided to check out the inside of the boiling underwater death pit that is the Cavachi volcano. They found sharks living inside it. Not near it, in it. The sharks were scalloped hammerheads and silky sharks, hanging out in the central crater like it's a spa day. The researchers didn't even pretend to understand it. Their official takeaway was that sharks can survive in an active volcano. But to this day, no one knows how they do it or why. The best guess scientists have is that the sharks like the warm water. The 2022 eruption was not Cavachi's first outburst, and it sure won't be the last. It erupts regularly like a cranky old man yelling at passing boats. It erupted in 2003, 2007, 2014, 2016, 2021, 22, 23, 24. You get the picture. Sometimes it even creates temporary islands which pop up, wave hello, and then vanish again. Now you see it, now you don't. And when magma meets water, things get really messy. There are steam explosions, ash clouds, molten rock bombs, and warm acidic water seasoned with sulfur and bacteria. These are known as phreatomagmatic eruptions, which is science speak for magma plus water equals chaos. What do you suppose happens to the sharks when the volcano erupts? I imagine them being launched out of the volcano like t-shirts out of a t-shirt gun, but scientists aren't too sure. The 2022 Landsat images didn't show sharks swirling in some underwater maelstrom due to the eruption, but they couldn't have gone far. Do the sharks know when the volcano is going to erupt and flee the scene, returning later? Or do they get yeeted out of the caldera like unwanted house guests? No one knows, which is half the fun. Cavachi is almost always simmering, so an eruption is never far off. Locals say they often see steam and ash on the surface between major eruptions. Cavachi is always ready for its next surprise party, sharks or no sharks. A lost Maya city in a volcano? This is getting crazy. First, a volcano filled with sharks, now a lost Maya city inside a volcano? Strap in for the most epic discovery of the day. Underneath the serene, crystal blue waters of a volcanic lake in Guatemala, crowded on all sides by volcanoes and gorgeous mountain views, there are submerged temples, sacred stones, and ancient secrets. I welcome you to Lake Atitlan, officially the most scenic place on Earth, to accidentally dive into a 1,000-year-old archaeological mystery. Between 400 BC and 250 AD, the Maya built a bustling city in the volcanic highlands, 5,000 feet above sea level. They didn't just throw up a few huts. They constructed a splendid city of glittering streets, towering temples, vast public squares, and probably a few killer courtyard parties. This city was the bee's knees of the Maya kingdom in Central America. For 600 years, it prospered. Then one day, poof, the city sank. It just sort of slipped into the volcanic lake and ended up at the bottom, like that time you tried to eat ice cream in the hot tub. Scientists believe volcanic activity pulled a trapdoor move on the city's foundations, and the water, once life-giving, suddenly turned on them. The Maya were forced to flee, and their majestic lakeside metropolis slipped into silence. Now, a squad of underwater archaeologists led by Helena Barbara Meinecke, a real-life underwater Lara Croft, is diving into the volcanic lake's depths to explore what's been hiding for centuries. So far, Helena has found ritual stones, ruined buildings, ceremonial columns, and much more. But she hasn't found everything. She and her team are using non-invasive, high-tech mapping to digitally recreate the site and keep it intact, sort of like what they just did with the Titanic. Rather than scuba gear, Helena has lasers. Normally, lasers would have a hard time discovering something like this, but luckily this city is only about 40 feet underwater. But make no mistake, this sunken city isn't some underwater museum free-for-all. It's a death trap. There's a reason that Helena is using lasers and not scuba gear. The site is protected both by the Guatemalan government and by the residents of Santiago Atitlan, who take its cultural and spiritual importance very seriously. Tourist dives are strictly banned. And there's also the volcanic issue. The last thing anyone wants while scuba diving is to be enveloped by a sudden volcanic explosion. Lake Atitlan is the deepest lake in all of Central America and is inside a volcanic caldera. While it's probably not going to be affected by an eruption anytime soon, despite being surrounded by volcanoes and inside the mouth of a volcano, the lake is still a dangerous place to dive. The team has been carefully collecting silt samples from the bottom of the lake to figure out how the land shifted and how this ancient Maya Atlantis met its soggy fate. If given the chance, would you strap on some scuba gear and explore this sunken city? Or are you more of a watch everyone else risk their lives from a safe kayak kind of person? Either way, just remember, somewhere in Lake Atitlan, a Maya priest's bones might just be waiting to curse any who would dare try to steal a rock as a souvenir from this ancient place. Thanks for watching! Be sure to stay tuned for extra content you might have missed.
Ancient submerged city. In late September, archaeologists announced the discovery of a 4,000-year-old ancient submerged city in the Aegean Sea, which they referred to as a paradise. The Bronze Age metropolis, discovered south of Athens near the Peloponnese Peninsula, was found unexpectedly by researchers from the University of Geneva, who were training on a nearby beach. A year after first noticing pottery fragments beneath the water's surface, the team returned to the site to further investigate. Using the planet Solar, the world's largest solar-powered boat, they conducted a thorough search overseen by the Swiss School of Archaeology in Greece and the Greek Ministry of Culture. The researchers found several buildings across a roughly 12-acre site, dating back to around 2500 BC, around the same time as the pyramids of Giza and the Minoan settlements of Crete, and predating the Greek civilization by around 1,000 years. Most perplexingly, they noticed 3 horseshoe-shaped foundations, which they believe were some sort of defense structure that has never been observed elsewhere in Greece. Altogether, over 6,000 artifacts were discovered at the site, including paved surfaces, stone tools, and pottery. Antiquities professor Julian Beck of the University of Geneva explained that the team does not know why the settlement was fortified and that the facility's full size remains unknown. World's deepest underwater cave. The Hranica Propast, or Hranica Abyss, is the world's deepest underwater cave. Divers have explored these caves for years, and it was always suspected to be the world's deepest underwater cave, with an established depth of at least 1,325 feet. It was discovered by Polish diver Krzysztof Saranowski, who later said that he felt like a Columbus of the 21st century for making the invaluable find. Saranowski dove to 656 feet, at which point he used a remotely operated robot to descend another 670 feet, as far as the machine's cord would go. Still, he could tell that the cave extended further down to an unknown depth. The prospect of diving any deeper was problematic because of both the muddy, low-visibility conditions and the cold water temperature, which dips down to 59 degrees Fahrenheit. Moreover, equipment and exposed skin were damaged by the mineral-heavy atmosphere. Recent research published in the Journal of Geophysical Research, Earth's surface, suggests that it's much deeper than originally thought, over 3,280 feet deep. The newly assessed potential cave depth was calculated from above by researchers from the Czech Academy of Scientists using geophysical techniques, including electrical resistivity tomography, or ERT, gravity, and seismic methods, according to Tech Kila. Get it? That's a good name, right? The ensuing map of the cave showed its newer depth of at least 3,280 feet, and the team still has not ruled out the possibility that the cave goes even deeper. And now for number 7, but first want to give a big shout out to Katie Bickham and Tyler G. Thanks so much for your support. If you are new here, be sure to subscribe and let me know what you would like to see in future videos. Swimming with anacondas. Swimming with giant anacondas is probably not on most people's bucket list, but did you know that this is something you can actually do on purpose? There are enough people that want to do this that there is a company that specializes in this anaconda swimming extravaganza. The off-the-beaten-path adventure takes place in Brazil, where expert divers guide tourists in the unique crystal-clear water of the Formoso River, where they hope to encounter and swim alongside the green anaconda, the world's largest snake species. Swimming with dolphins just isn't exciting enough, apparently. Green anacondas are notorious for being difficult to spot, which many of us might be thankful for. But for those who are curious, one of these diving programs may provide exactly what you were looking for. Who knew? Anacondas have a terrifying reputation for stealing dogs and children in the middle of the night. These predators live in marshes, swamps, and murky streams, waiting to devour prey that gets too close to the water's edge, like capybara and sometimes even jaguars. Two divers were filming underwater in Brazil's Formoso River in 2019 when they came across an enormous snake that appeared out of the murky waters. It seems like it was calm and curious, so they got closer and closer to the anaconda that measured about 23 feet long. Underwater footage of anacondas is very rare since, first of all, the waters don't always have the best conditions for seeing things, and second of all, this seems extremely terrifying and creepy, and I'm not sure every diver could handle it. After a while, the snake appears to swim away from them with no intention of attacking whatsoever, and the divers follow it for quite some time until it disappears. The anaconda was clearly not feeling in an aggressive mood, and the divers got some incredible footage. However, it seems pretty risky since underwater it seems like the anaconda would have the advantage and could have easily chosen to attack. They say that if one comes at you, to freeze in the water and to stay still. But in any case, this experience for these divers went very well, and they are very happy to show a more peaceful side to the greatly feared snake. Regardless of how peaceful and tolerant a green anaconda may be, seeing one come at you from the bottom of a river could be one of the scariest things ever. Would you swim with a green anaconda? If you do, let me know in the comments below, and if you have, be sure to share some pics. But in any case, I don't think I'll be joining you. I like to admire snakes from a distance. Steamboat wreck. In September of this year, a Colchester, Vermont diver named Gary Lefebvre discovered pieces from one of America's earliest steamboat wrecks in Lake Champlain using a remotely operated vehicle, or ROV. He unexpectedly captured footage of two paddle wheels from the steamboat Phoenix, which caught fire and sank 201 years ago. The main hull was documented 40 years ago, according to Chris Sabick of the Lake Champlain Maritime Museum, but the paddle wheels remained missing until Lefebvre's recent historic discovery. In fact, Sabick explained the museum did not even know if the paddle wheels even still existed. So to find them was really exciting and will show lots of new detail about this vessel and its construction, he said. The paddle wheels will remain at the bottom of the lake, where the cold, dark waters help to keep them well preserved. It would be difficult to recover them anyway because their depth exceeds typical diving standards. The Phoenix launched in 1815 as the second commercial steamboat to operate on Lake Champlain and regularly operated between Whitehall, New York and St. John's, Quebec. It sank 4 years later on September 5, 1819, when someone either carelessly left a lit candle in the pantry or at the hands of a rival company, depending on which version you believe. 6 perished in the tragedy, while the remaining 40 passengers and crew thankfully survived. World War II pilot. The remains of a U.S. pilot who was shot down while flying over the Pacific during World War II over 70 years ago were finally recovered in 2018 by members of the American Armed Forces. Over the decades, sand and sea life buried the pilot and the wreckage he went down with in the Republic of Palau. The recovery team identified and recovered the wreck after 74 long years, and their next mission was to figure out whose remains they had found and notify the fallen soldiers' next of kin. Numerous agencies worked together to make the discovery, including the Defense POW MIA Accounting Agency, which dispatched an underwater recovery team staffed by service members of the U.S. Army, Navy, and Air Force, as well as civilian employees from the Department of Defense, on the USNS Salvor. The task was arduous, as described by Lieutenant Commander Tim Emge, who said in a statement that the divers have been pulling more than 12-hour days for the past 2 months, and that the recovery team spent weeks excavating the area using a variety of archaeological tools and meticulously inspecting the bottom sediment in their search and recovery of the missing personnel from World War II. The recovery process was meticulous, according to civilian mariner Jean Marienne, chief mate of the USNS Salvor recovery vessel, adding there was a lot of sand, a never-ending supply. Their hard and painstaking work paid off and proved worthwhile when the team found the wreckage and the individual who went down with the plane so many years ago. Neolithic sites. In July, archaeologists reported the discovery of hundreds of ancient indigenous artifacts of Western Australia's Dampier archipelago, serving as evidence that people lived in the now submerged region 7,000 years ago, when it was still dry land. The artifacts were found at 2 different sites located about 3 miles from where one of Australia's biggest gas producers, Woodside Petroleum, plans to build a pipeline between one of its gas plants and gas fields in what the company calls its Scarborough project. Perhaps more shocking than the discovery itself is the oil and gas company's response to it. Australia's Indigenous heritage laws only protect underwater sites if a minister determines that they are significant, initially sparking fears that the artifacts, and perhaps others that have not been found yet, would be destroyed or lost. Thankfully, Woodside Petroleum began a dialogue with the region's Indigenous landowners, the Murujuga Aboriginal Corporation, or MAC, as well as archaeologists from the deep history of sea country who made the discoveries. The parties involved agree that the rest of the area needs to be thoroughly investigated before the pipeline is installed to ensure that no undiscovered Indigenous artifacts are damaged and lost to history in the process. Woodside has an impressive history of willingly cooperating with the Murujuga to avoid destroying Aboriginal rock art and other items of cultural and historic value with its projects, particularly on and near the Burrup Peninsula, where other important sites have been discovered. In a statement, a spokesperson reassured that the submerged artifact sites will remain protected, that the company will continue performing archaeological digs where it plans to build, and that it is working with the Murujuga to develop a cultural heritage plan for the area it plans to develop. "We don't need the law to tell us what the right thing to do is," said Australian Petroleum Production and Exploration Association Chief Executive Andrew McConville. "We're already doing it." 17th century Dutch ship. A volunteer diving team from Badevane, a non-profit organization that documents shipwrecks, recently discovered the remains of a 17th century Dutch ship in the Baltic Sea. A small crew ran the 3-masted cargo-carrying ship called a flute, which had no gun attachments, but was equipped to carry cannons and ammunition during battle. Flutes were not built for speed, but crew members took advantage of the vessel's unique rigging system, which cut costs by enabling them to adjust the sails for maximum space. The newly found wreck sank for mysterious reasons and appears to be in shockingly good condition. It went down in deep waters in the middle of the sea, yet its hull remains intact, a member of the diving team, Jouni Polko, explained in an interview. The team speculated that a storm may have capsized the vessel, or a leak may have allowed too much water in and the pumps may have stopped working. Another possibility is that the rigging became frozen, causing the ship to become unstable. At the time the vessel sank, the Dutch Empire was in its golden age, with power extending to parts of Asia, Europe, North America, Tasmania, and New Zealand. With prominent trading posts established throughout the world and an ample fleet of seafaring vessels, the Dutch grew to control the globe's maritime trade, making the sunken flute just one of many that helped the nation become a major economic power. New coral species. While closely exploring the Great Barrier Reef Park's deepest regions for the first time, scientists aboard the Schmidt Ocean Institute's Falkor research vessel discovered 5 previously unidentified species consisting of black corals and sponges, as well as Australia's first recorded observation of an extremely rare fish. Scientists from numerous organizations and institutions, including Geoscience Australia, James Cook University, the University of Sydney, the Japan Agency for Marine Earth Science and Technology, and more, worked together on what the researchers called a complex and scientifically challenging mission, during which they sought the answers to numerous questions regarding the geological evolution and biology of deep-sea canyons and reefs. They examined these environments and ecosystems, which sit up to 6,000 feet below the water's surface, using a remotely operated robot. The team took the deepest samples of soft coral ever collected in the Coral Sea, as well as the first ever sample of ancient bedrock from the Great Barrier Reef, which is estimated to be between 40 and 50 million years old. During the expedition, scientists also conducted the most thorough survey to date of mid-water jellyfishes in the South Pacific, and caught a glimpse of the super rare Rhinopius agroliba fish species, witnessing the colorful ambush predator in Australian waters for the first time ever. The researchers hope to use the information gleaned from the study for learning how to better protect these fragile habitats, which play a vital role in biodiversity. 13,000-year-old skeleton. Some of the oldest known human remains in the Americas were discovered in recent years, deep in the underwater cave systems of the Yucatan Peninsula in modern-day Mexico. In 2007, a team of divers found the ancient skeleton of a teenage female, whom they named Naya. When Naya died, the underwater caves were dry. She plunged 190 feet into a pit and probably died instantly. Her remains are remarkably well preserved, making her the most complete and genetically intact human skeleton in the New World. An analysis of Naya's DNA revealed that she was a genetic forerunner to modern Native Americans. The caves filled with water about 8,000 years ago. The divers who discovered Naya returned to the underwater caves in 2010 and discovered a male skeleton. He was named the Young Man of Chanhol II and was dated back 13,000 years. But when they announced the discovery, looters stole most of the skeleton before scientists could come and get it. A third skeleton that was found nearby dates back approximately 13,500 years. In the same cave system in 2017, a pair of divers squeezed into a narrow passageway after already descending nearly a half-mile down. There they discovered a very small opening leading to an ancient chamber containing the preserved 11,000-year-old remnants of an ancient mining site where people once harvested red ochre pigments. It contains artifacts such as tools and fire pits, offering a never-before-seen glimpse into how early humans extracted pigments in this part of the world. In the past, red ochre was a precious material used in cave paintings, mortuary rituals, and perhaps even as sunscreen, according to National Geographic. Beyond these mining practices, the discovery provided scientists with insight into the everyday lives of people who operated the mine and lived in the region. They were some of the first residents of the Americas, with evidence they left behind predating the rise of the nearby Maya Empire sites by thousands of years. Thanks for watching! Which discovery was your favorite? Which one would you like to learn more about? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. See you soon! Bye!